My mom, who is 43 years old, likes to go to Burning Man every year, which is cool, I guess. But every year she's been, something has gone wrong. One year, my cat was extremely sick, and I couldn't get in contact with her since there's no service. So I watched my baby girl slowly pass away because the person who was supposed to be watching me didn't help me. Another year, I had to have surgery and had a health flare-up, and I also had zero contact for a week. I built up a lot of resentment. I had an accident 2 days ago where I hit my head pretty hard. It was bad. They found me vomiting and called an ambulance. My mom was about to leave for her flight, but went with me to the hospital anyway, which I'm really grateful for because I was hyperventilating the whole time. While we were there and waiting for the electrocardiogram, she promised that she'd stay and take care of me, and it meant a lot to me. I don't usually rely on her since I am the oldest kid, and to be honest, I really needed it. We got home late, and when I woke up around noon, she knocked on my door and asked me if she should take a flight out that night since it was almost full. I was kind of taken aback by that and asked what she meant. She kind of backtracked and said that if I was feeling better, then she'd still look for flights out. I wasn't really sure what to say to that, and my head was really hurting, so I went back to sleep. Throughout the day, she kept asking how I was feeling and if I was doing better. After dinner, she was looking at flights out, and there was one in the morning, so she asked if she should take it. I felt guilty about her missing the first flight to take me to the hospital, so I told her that if she wanted to go, then to go. So she booked it. I wasn't sure if she'd book it when I said that because she promised me, but I think all those years of resentment finally came in, and I just gave up. She called today after she landed, and I just kind of let loose about everything. I think she felt guilty because she was avoiding anything I said and told me to drink water and do collagen masks and to calm down. She said that I was her top priority. When I pointed out that if I was her top priority, she would have stayed, and that I would have never done this in her position, she stopped responding. Eventually, I basically told her that I give up on her as a mother and help in my life. I guess what I mean to ask is my relationship with her worth salvaging? And if so, how should I go about approaching her and what to say? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Is it possible to salvage your relationship with your mother? Probably. Is it worth doing? Also, probably. But I think that in order to do that, you'll have to have some honest conversations about what's happening, why your mom has an unhealthy attachment to Burning Man, and what sort of balance and support you'd need in your life to feel comfortable with your mom attending any sort of 4 or more day-long retreat or festival. It's also going to be important to recognize that Burning Man has some very cult-adjacent sociological traits. So there's a lot of potential conditioning your mom might have to unravel in order to have the kind of relationship you want with her. There's the physiological and psychological impact of attending an event that can be a intimacy, drugs, and alcohol-fueled extended euphoria bender. But there are also the sociological components that reinforce the event during the year, and understanding how those play into the behaviors will likely be just as important. Much in the same way that sometimes when you get sober, you have to part ways with friends and groups that are bound up with intoxicants. I'm genuinely sorry you're having to navigate this. No child should have to be in this position. Comment 2. I'm 60. My single mother never went to Burning Man, but she did pretty much ignore me my entire childhood. She did not treat my sisters the same way, just me. I was too young to understand, too hurt to overcome it. So at 17, I left for the army. I hardly ever saw or spoke to her. The longest was 3 years without communication. When I married and started my family, she told my wife how much she regrets what she did. She tried, but the resentment was too deep. When she passed, it was like attending the funeral of a distant relative. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, original poster. The only advice I can give is to stay focused on your goals and diligently work towards achieving them. You're 17. Soon you'll need to make decisions concerning your future. Choose what's in your best interests. If that means forging your own path without your mother being a part of your life, then so be it. Just make sure you do not allow her past and present actions to interfere with your future and the success you wish to achieve. Now, for the update. 2 days after that whole mess, my mom texts me asking how I'm feeling. I just send back an okay. Like, what do you want me to say? I'm fine? After you've up and left me to fend for myself? Okay, sure, whatever. Later that day, I hear her on the phone chatting away about some party she's got with her friends. At this point, I'm just like, okay, this is a little too much for me. So I decide to sneak a peek at her social media. Surprise, surprise. There she is, at this super popular place, looking like she's having a blast. She's got people all around her, laughing like crazy. The caption? Oh, just the small detail that she's celebrating a friend's birthday. The exact time she's supposed to be visiting me. I mean, come on, I can't just let this slide, right? So, I decide to confront her directly during a family dinner this weekend. Yeah, that should be fun. At dinner, my brother Jake starts talking about how stoked he is to be a dad, and I mean, that's awesome for him. But I can't help but feel like I'm being sidelined again. I swallow my frustration and wait for the right moment to speak up. After dinner, when everyone's just chilling, I finally bring up the party. I'm like, why didn't you mention it when we talked? She just brushes it off like it's no big deal. Claims she just wanted to relax after a stressful week. Seriously? Relax? I point out that she's always having fun at Burning Man while leaving me to deal with everything myself. The conversation gets a little heated, and she insists she deserves some time for herself. I remind her of all the promises she made after my accident, and she gets all defensive. Like, really? Everyone else at dinner can feel the tension in the air. My sister Kate tries to change the subject, but I'm not letting this go. I'm not going to be quiet anymore. My mom, she says I'm being selfish for wanting her to sacrifice her happiness for me. I shoot back, saying I would never just ditch her when she needs me. Our argument just escalates, and suddenly everyone's staring at us, like shocked. She storms out of the house, saying she needs space from all this drama. Days go by, and I don't hear a peep from her. I'm done waiting. So I start planning a small get-together with some family members. I send out the invites, making sure to include everyone except for my mom. Yeah, I'm making a statement. The get-together is happening next weekend, and we're going to talk about all these issues we've been having in our family. On the day of the gathering, I tell everyone what's been going on with me, how I've been feeling neglected. Some of my relatives are surprised. They say they've noticed my mom's priorities, but didn't know how to talk about it. My brother Jake offers to talk to her after hearing everything. He wants to mediate or something. The gathering wraps up with everyone showing support for me, and I feel like I've got some backup now. The next day, my mom just shows up out of nowhere, looking for me. I confront her about the gathering, telling her why I wanted to have it in the first place. She flips out, saying I'm trying to turn the family against her. I stand my ground, telling her that I just wanted my voice to be heard and for things to change around here. She storms off again. Honestly, I feel like I'm in a never-ending soap opera, and I can't even tell if I'm the main character or just the annoying sidekick. I just wanted my mom to be there for me. Like, is that too much to ask? Now, she's acting like I'm the villain for wanting some consistency in her life. I know I might have gone overboard with the family gathering and not inviting her, but honestly, what else was I supposed to do? I just keep getting ignored and sidelined. It's like I'm screaming into a void. I just want to get back to being a normal 20-year-old, but with all this drama, I feel like I'm stuck in this adulting hell. I'm really not okay, so any advice would be much appreciated. Mini update. After the family gathering, Jake talked to Mom, and it didn't go well. She accused him of betraying her and said I was using the family against her. He tried to explain my perspective, but she didn't want to hear it. She also claimed that I was the one who was always busy and rarely available to spend time with her. In the end, she refused to discuss anything and just walked away from him. Things have been tense between us since then. I feel like we're at a standstill. She keeps ignoring my texts, and I'm not sure how to reach out to her anymore. Am I the idiot for taking a break from my boyfriend because he couldn't stop drinking? I have been dating my boyfriend for about 2 years. We're entering our senior year of college, and while he's kind, funny, and great at communicating, I've become worried about his drinking. He lives with fraternity brothers who drink heavily almost every day, even on school nights. When I visit, they're always drinking, playing drinking games, going to bars, or just drinking at home. I used to not mind, but recently, it seems like he's drunk more often than sober. We've been back at school for only 2 weeks. I know he had been drinking a lot while I'm not there, but there have been 2 recent incidents where I've been present that really concerned me. First, we went out to the bars last week, and he was drinking more than 4 drinks per hour for several hours. Later, when everything was closing, he insisted on getting McDonald's. He wanted to drive there while drunk since only the drive-thru was open, and I told him no. He seriously considered it, which makes me worried he might have done it before. The second time I noticed was when I went to his apartment to spend the night. When I arrived, he was already drunk, playing a drinking game with his roommates. He kept forgetting simple things, like asking me the same question 3 times. After a while, he started shouting and making loud, obnoxious noises, acting out in a way that was embarrassing. I asked him to stop multiple times, but he ignored me. He also fell hard when we went to bed. The next morning, he didn't remember any of it. I tried to bring up my concerns subtly, but he brushed them off each time. When I left, I said, "I love you, don't go falling anywhere," and he responded, "I won't make any promises." I sent him a text saying I love him and care about him, but I'm worried about how much he's drinking and think he needs to cut back. He replied, "I know I drink a lot, but it won't be so bad after college. It's just a phase. My roommates will probably do the same after they graduate. I'll be busy soon, so I won't have time to drink like this. I'm just enjoying it now. I'm sorry if I upset you." His response made me feel like he wasn't taking my concerns seriously. Now for an update. After talking to a friend, I realized most of our time together involves drinking or hanging out with his fraternity brothers, which I don't enjoy so much anymore. I also feel guilty for noticing other guys recently. I think it's because it's nice to just feel wanted or noticed, but I would never cheat on my boyfriend. I'm wondering if my boyfriend's drinking habits will change after college. The only time we have deep conversations is when he's drinking, which doesn't feel healthy. I love him and can see a future together, but I feel conflicted. Should I try to address this issue and work on the relationship, or is it a sign that it's time to move on? Any advice on how to handle this would be appreciated. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It's true that some folks go through a phase in college where they drink really heavily. I absolutely did, and my girlfriend at the time was in it with me. We drank and got drunk every night, basically, even on work and school nights. I pulled out of it after college, in part because she broke up with me, and I realized I was an overweight drunk with nothing going on in my life. She didn't, and then she was forced to a few years later because she got pancreatitis from it. I think a lot of people, including myself, don't realize how serious these things are in the moment, and how serious the health effects can quickly become if they're not reined in pretty aggressively. The fact that he's getting blackout drunk multiple times a week and probably drives drunk are both pretty huge problems. It also sounds like he's not actually fun to be around when he's like this. So it's not just a problem of his health and well-being. He's not being a very good boyfriend. I think if he doesn't respond to your very legitimate concerns, it's time to end things. Comment 2. I have a friend who went on a similar drinking and fraternity phase in college. They're still a daily drinker today, 15 years later. Alcohol doesn't care about phases. If you consume it every day, your body will become dependent. If it becomes dependent, it becomes very hard to stop. It's one of the only substances that can actually unalive you during withdrawal. You can have seizures and die if you don't go in and medically detox with doctors around. Drinking is fun. College years are crazy. There's nothing wrong with going out on the weekends and having some fun with your friends. Binge drinking every single day for 4 years straight will absolutely destroy you. Now for the update. The day after the whole drinking fiasco, my boyfriend texted me asking to meet up at a local diner. I was like, great, just what I need, a public place to talk about your drinking problem. So, We met there, and he looked like a hot mess, trying to act all normal while clearly hungover. Like, dude, I know you're struggling, but can we not pretend everything's fine? He ordered a stack of pancakes, and I went for a salad, noticing he barely touched his food. Classic. Anyway, right in the middle of our meal, he casually brings up this party happening Friday at a friend's house. And I'm like, again? Really? So, I asked if he planned to drink heavily again, and he just brushed it off, saying it would be a casual night. Casual? For you? Maybe. Then he mentioned his fraternity's charity fundraiser coming up and invited me to help organize it. I agreed, hoping it would give us a chance to bond over something other than drinking. Spoiler alert, it didn't. A few days later, while we were working on the fundraiser, I overheard some of his fraternity brothers talking about him bragging about drinking contests. I was like, are you kidding me? This is exactly what I've been worried about. So I decided to talk to a mutual friend about my worries, and she suggested I meet up with his fraternity brothers to get the details. I arranged a casual dinner with him and his brothers, thinking it would be a good way to gauge the situation. During dinner, I noticed one of his brothers was particularly rowdy. Like, seriously, dude, chill out. He kept encouraging my boyfriend to drink shots, and I could feel my frustration building as he laughed and poured another round. Like, why is this acceptable? After dinner, I pulled my boyfriend aside and asked him to cut back on drinking, especially with his friends around. He insisted he was fine and that it was just a way to unwind from school pressures. Yeah, right. The next weekend, we went to the fundraiser, and he downed several drinks before speaking to the crowd. Guess what? He slurred his words during the speech. Later, I found him outside, leaning against a wall, struggling to stay upright. I had to help him into a cab, and I was just over it at this point. The following week, we went to a family dinner at my parents' house. My dad made a toast, and my boyfriend raised his glass with a loud cheer, drawing unnecessary attention. My sister even raised an eyebrow, clearly recognizing his drinking issue. After dinner, my mom pulled me aside, expressing concern about his behavior. Like, thanks, Mom, but I'm already on it. Later that night, my boyfriend admitted he felt pressured to impress my family and his friends. Of course you do. The following week, I confronted him about his drinking again, leading to a heated argument. He accused me of not understanding college life, and I snapped back that I was worried about him. Days passed, and he was still drinking heavily at parties, ignoring his promise to cut back. I was just done with it all, so I decided to take a break from our regular hangouts to clear my head. One night, I got a text from him asking to talk, so we met at a coffee shop. He looked serious and admitted he was struggling with his drinking more than he let on. I was kind of relieved to hear that, honestly. We discussed the need for boundaries in our relationship, and he agreed to seek help. We started attending events together where drinking was minimal, focusing on activities instead of getting wasted. It felt like a breath of fresh air. So now, we're planning a weekend hiking trip, and I'm actually excited about the new direction of our relationship. Edit. My boyfriend admitted he struggles with peer pressure, which played a big role in his drinking. He also shared that his dad has a similar issue, making him feel it's normal. We're now attending social events with his fraternity where drinking isn't the main focus, and the atmosphere is so much better. Am I the idiot for feeling relieved when my cheating boyfriend moved out of state? I care so deeply for him, and he's my best friend. There were times when I was waiting for a ring and would say yes any day. Now I hope he doesn't ask me because I'm scared I'll say no. He is a good boyfriend and does sweet little things a boyfriend should. We've argued about him not doing the bigger things, though. Not planning dates, trips, anniversaries, being spontaneously romantic in general. We've had this argument probably 3 times over the years. He always says he'll try. I think he does, and maybe he is now. We have a small trip he planned for my birthday next month. But I'm not excited. Not because it's not an amazing trip, but it feels forced because I asked. Maybe it's too late? I caught him cheating by texting other girls about meeting up on dating apps 2 years ago. I feel we've moved past that in our relationship, only taking a 2-week break because I went on a girls' trip due to it. But now there are times where I kind of hope he'll cheat again to give me a better reason to leave. and I know that's terrible. He's 2 years older than me, but sometimes I feel like his mom. I make sure all of the bills are set up, I pick out the living arrangements, and if there are issues, I handle customer service, even sometimes for his own personal stuff, like doctors, insurance, and packages. I don't love doing this, but I also care about him and don't want him getting frustrated. The past few weeks, I almost dread being home because he's there, and then I feel guilty because there's no reason I should feel like avoiding him. I went on a work trip and was so happy not to be home. I even found myself looking at others and questioning infidelity, but didn't act on it. When I got back home, he had printed a picture of us and had it framed with a bottle of wine and flowers waiting at home. I felt nothing but guilt, but also numb at the same time. There wasn't any excitement or overwhelming love. My physical attraction has also been non-existent since I've been back. I keep making pros and cons lists in my head. Cons being financial issues like rent and buying new items. We have 2 dogs together, starting over in this dating world, making him move out and hurting him. I'm scared to make the wrong decision by ending things. I keep debating on just waiting to see how this trip goes between us in 2 weeks, like hoping maybe it'll rekindle things for me, prove that these thoughts are just a low point in the relationship for me. Then I worry I'm drawing out the inevitable more. I haven't voiced this to anyone yet. Thanks for reading, if you made it this far. What are your thoughts? Should I stick it out and see how the trip goes since we have such a long history? Should I act on this gut feeling? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. The cheating incident 2 years ago might still affect you, and the fact that you're handling most of the responsibilities in the relationship might be making you feel more like a caretaker than a partner. You've been feeling detached, even avoiding coming home, which suggests that your feelings have shifted. While it's tempting to wait and see if the upcoming trip changes things, it's important to consider whether these feelings are a sign that the relationship has run its course. Comment 2. Buried the lead there. He cheated on you. He's mediocre at life, parentifies you to take care of his life for him, and rarely makes you feel special or appreciated. You're with him out of convenience, and deep down, you have to know that isn't good for either of you. It's super hard to cut the cord when you've been with someone a long time. But it sounds like this has been dying a slow death since he stepped out. I think you'll feel a lot lighter when you're free. Now, for the update. I'm back with an update, and let me tell you, things have taken a turn. First off, it's been about a month since I last shared my story. I returned home from a work trip and immediately felt that familiar, uneasy feeling about my relationship. You know, the kind that sits in your stomach and just doesn't go away? Yeah, that. So, the trip that my boyfriend planned for my birthday came and went without any excitement at all. I still felt completely disengaged, like I was just going through the motions. He was all excited, but I was just like, yeah, whatever. Honestly, I didn't have high hopes for this trip. He kept insisting on taking photos together, but I avoided the camera like crazy. I felt so out of place and just not in it. We went to this popular local winery for a tour, and I struggled to connect with him the whole time. It was like we were worlds apart, even when we were standing right next to each other. At dinner that night, he proposed a toast to our relationship, and I just sat there in silence. The tension in the air was super thick. On the way back home, he asked if I was happy, and I just dodged the question like a pro. I didn't want to get into it right then. Back home, I was scrolling through social media, trying to distract myself from reality, when I saw a post from a mutual friend. It was my boyfriend out at a bar with some college friends. What surprised me was that he never even mentioned it. So, I casually questioned him about it, and he brushed it off like it was nothing special. I wasn't buying it, but I let it go. The next day, I found a text on his phone from an unknown number while he was in the shower. The message had all these flirty comments and emojis, and I was like, here we go again. When he came out, I confronted him about the text, and he acted all innocent, claiming it was just a friend messing around. I was not having it. I demanded that he block the number, but he refused, insisting it was all harmless. I was so frustrated that I decided to give him some space for the day. I went to a local cafe to clear my head. At the cafe, I unexpectedly ran into my sister and brother-in-law. They were visiting the area, and I was so grateful for the distraction. During lunch, my sister brought up wanting to throw a family gathering for the holidays. Then the topic shifted to relationships, and she mentioned how she and her husband had been working through some issues. It was like a reality check for me. I returned home later in the day, and my boyfriend suggested we take a weekend trip to visit his family. I reluctantly agreed because I didn't want to stir the pot any more than I already had. As we were preparing for the trip, I found a dog toy from my ex tucked under the couch. Of course, I had to confront my boyfriend about it, and we got into a heated argument about our past relationships. He accused me of bringing up old wounds, which I wasn't having. We arrived at his family's house, and everyone was already gathered. His family started asking about our future plans, and I was put on the spot. I fumbled through my answers, feeling the pressure from both my boyfriend and his family. The next day, while we were out running errands, I overheard a conversation between two of his friends. They made a joke about my boyfriend's cheating past, and it caught me completely off guard. I returned home and confronted him again, demanding honesty about his past and his current intentions. Finally, he admitted to having moments of weakness, but insisted that he loves me. We decided to take a long walk with our dogs to discuss things openly. During the walk, we stumbled upon a couple fighting in a nearby park, which unnerved us both. We returned home in silence, and it felt like we were in our own little worlds again. The following week, my boyfriend received a job offer out of state, and he started considering it seriously. We had one last dinner together where he brought up possibly moving. I just sat there, listening to him talk about this potential new life, while I felt like I was stuck in limbo. So, that's where we're at right now. Things are still rocky, and I'm honestly not sure what I'm going to do. Mini update. After the last update, my boyfriend moved out of state for his new job, and we decided to give long distance a shot. However, after a couple of weeks, things got really tough. We didn't have the same connection over the phone, and I just felt even more lost without him around. It became clear that we needed to talk. So, I visited him, and we had a heart-to-heart about our relationship. We both agreed that the distance was just too much, and we decided to break up. I realized that I needed to focus on myself and figure out what I really want. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.